You know that feeling when you walk into a room and forget why you're there? Most people blame it on distraction or stress. But what if I told you that sometimes the room forgets you were there too? Tonight, I'm going to share 2 stories with people who noticed something was wrong. Not dramatically wrong, just off. The kind of wrong that starts small and never really stops growing. The first involves a woman who kept finding her coffee cold. The second is about a man whose apartment had one window too many. Story 1. Sarah moved into the apartment on a Tuesday. She remembered because she had requested Tuesday off specifically, wanting to avoid the weekend rush at the building's single elevator. The place was perfect for her budget. A studio in an older building, 5th floor, decent light, and the landlord had been unusually eager to get her signed. The first week passed normally. She unpacked her boxes, arranged her furniture, learned which floorboard creaked near the bathroom. She worked from home as a copy editor, so she spent most of her time at the small desk by the window, coffee always within reach. It was on day 8 that she first noticed. She had made coffee at 9 in the morning, like always. French press, 4 minutes, 1 cup. She poured it into her favorite mug and set it on her desk. She answered 2 emails. When she reached for the mug, the coffee was cold. Not lukewarm. Genuinely cold, as if it had been sitting there for hours. She assumed she had lost track of time, though her email timestamps showed only 12 minutes had passed. She made another cup. This time she watched the clock deliberately. 3 minutes after pouring, she took a sip. Cold. Sarah checked the mug itself, wondering if there was something wrong with the ceramic. She tried a different mug. Same result. She tried tea. Cold within minutes. She tried letting it sit in a thermos first. The thermos kept it warm until she poured it into any cup, and then it cooled almost instantly. Only in the apartment. She tested it. Coffee stayed hot in her car. In the coffee shop downstairs. In the building's lobby. But the moment she brought it through her apartment door, some invisible timer began counting down to cold. She mentioned it to her neighbor Marcus, a graduate student who lived across the hall. He laughed, not unkindly, and suggested her apartment might be colder than she realized. But Sarah had a thermometer. 71 degrees. Perfectly normal. Marcus offered to test it himself. He came over with a fresh cup from the shop downstairs, steaming. They both watched it. 4 minutes. Cold. Marcus said. He looked uncomfortable. That's weird. Has anything like this happened to you? Sarah asked. No. But. He paused. The guy who lived here before you. I only met him once, right before he moved out. He looked exhausted. Like he hadn't slept in weeks. I asked if he was okay, and he said something strange. He said time was hungry here. Sarah felt something cold that had nothing to do with coffee. What did he mean? I don't know. I thought maybe he was on something. He moved out the next day. After Marcus left, Sarah sat at her desk and tried to work. But she kept thinking about the coffee. About time. She looked around her apartment with new attention. Everything seemed normal. Furniture, walls, the window with its view of the street below. Except, she had been living here for 9 days. And she suddenly realized she couldn't remember a single sunset. She worked until evening most days, sure. But 9 days. She should have seen at least one. She went to the window. It was 3 in the afternoon according to her phone. The light outside looked like 3 in the afternoon. She watched it for an hour. The shadows didn't move. Her phone said 4:15. The light outside still looked like mid-afternoon. At 5:30, the light finally began to change. But it didn't fade gradually. It was as if someone was dimming a bulb. The transition from day to dusk took less than 10 minutes. Sarah started documenting. She set up her laptop to record the view from her window. She kept detailed logs of the time according to her devices versus what the light suggested. The discrepancies were subtle but consistent. Some hours passed quickly. Others stretched. Between 2 and 4 in the afternoon, time seemed to slow to roughly half speed. Between midnight and 2 a.m., it accelerated. She would blink and lose 30 minutes. Her work suffered. She would start editing a document and find she had been staring at the same sentence for 40 minutes, though it felt like 5. Or she would begin a task expecting it to take an hour and complete it in what felt like an hour, only to discover 3 hours had vanished. She slept poorly. She would lie down at 11 and close her eyes, and when she opened them it would be 4 in the morning, but she felt like she had only blinked. No dreams. No sense of rest. Just missing time. On day 23, she found the journal. It was wedged behind the radiator in the corner, a small black notebook with water damage on the edges. The handwriting inside was cramped and increasingly erratic. No name, but she knew it belonged to the previous tenant. The first entries were mundane. Complaints about noise from upstairs. Notes about groceries. Then, around entry 15, coffee keeps going cold. Is the heater broken? Then, losing time in the afternoons. Need to set more alarms. Then, counted the hours. Only 18 in a day here. Where do the other 6 go? Then, it's taking more. I feel thinner. Not physically. Something else. The last entry was just one line, written so hard the pen had torn through the paper. It's not the apartment that's hungry. Sarah's hands were shaking. She flipped through the rest of the notebook, but the remaining pages were blank. She looked up at her apartment. Same walls. Same window. Same ordinary space. But she realized she couldn't remember the last time she had felt truly alert. Even now, thinking back over the past 3 weeks, the memories felt thin. Like photocopies of photocopies. She could remember events, but not the feeling of living them. She grabbed her phone and pulled up photos from the past month. There she was, in the apartment, working at her desk. Eating dinner. Reading on the couch. But looking at the photos felt like looking at pictures of a stranger. She could not connect the person in those images to any actual memory of being that person in that moment. That night, she decided to leave. She would break the lease, lose the deposit, whatever it took. She began packing immediately. But it was 1 a.m. when she started, and when she looked up from the first box, her phone said 5:30 a.m. She had packed 1 box in 4.5 hours. That was impossible. She looked down at her hands. They were moving normally, but the clock kept jumping. She tried to walk to the door. It was 15 feet away. Each step felt normal, but when she finally reached it and looked back at her phone, 18 minutes had passed. The apartment was stretching time when she tried to leave. She stood at the door, hand on the knob. She could open it. She knew she could. But something stopped her. A thought, creeping and cold. If time was moving differently in here, and she had been here for almost a month, then how much time had passed outside? Her phone said it was still January. But her phone was inside the apartment with her, subject to the same strange physics. She opened the door. The hallway looked the same. Same beige carpet, same fluorescent lights. She stepped out and knocked on Marcus's door. No answer. She knocked again, harder. Finally, the door opened. But it wasn't Marcus. A woman in her 60s stood there, annoyed. Can I help you? I'm looking for Marcus, the grad student. No one by that name lives here, the woman said. I've been in this apartment for 4 years. Sarah backed away. She pulled out her phone and checked her email. The last message from her boss was dated January 8th. She scrolled desperately. Nothing more recent. She opened her sent folder. Her last sent email was January 7th. But her phone's calendar said January 25th. She ran down the stairs, not trusting the elevator, and burst out onto the street. Everything looked normal. Cars passing, people walking. A couple arguing outside the bodega. She stopped a man passing by. Excuse me, what's today's date? He looked at her like she was insane. March 3rd. Sarah felt the ground tilt. She had been in the apartment for what felt like 3.5 weeks. Outside, 2 months had passed. She looked up at the building. 5th floor. Her window. In the glass, she could see her own reflection. Except the reflection wasn't moving with her. It was still standing there, looking down at the street. Watching her. Sarah walked. She didn't know where she was going. She just walked, trying to put distance between herself and the building. But with every block, she felt it. That same stretching sensation. Like time was taffy pulling apart. She looked at her hands. They seemed thinner. Not physically, but less present. Like she was becoming the photocopy now. The coffee had always been cold because heat is energy and energy exists in time. The apartment was hungry. It had been feeding on hours, on moments, on the experience of living. And she had been giving it everything, sitting there day after day, while time outside continued without her. She thought about the previous tenant. About his journal. About how he had looked exhausted, hollowed out. He had escaped, but how much of him had been left? Sarah found herself back at the building. She didn't remember deciding to return. But there she was, standing on the sidewalk, looking up at her window. The reflection was gone now. The window was dark. She should leave the city. Start over somewhere else. But even as she thought it, she felt the exhaustion. Bone deep and absolute. The idea of packing, of moving, of filling out applications and signing new leases felt impossible. She was so tired. The apartment was paid through the end of the month. It would be easier to just go back. Sleep. Figure it out tomorrow. She walked into the building. Took the elevator to the 5th floor. Unlocked her door. Inside, everything was exactly as she had left it. The half-packed box. Her coffee mug on the desk, the liquid inside dark and cold and still. She sat down at her desk. She should leave. She knew that. But tomorrow. She would leave tomorrow. Outside, the light was fading. That quick, dimmer switch sunset. Sarah watched it happen. 10 minutes from day to night. Her phone buzzed. An email from her boss. Checking in, haven't heard from you in a while. Everything okay? Sarah looked at the timestamp. March 7th. She had been sitting at her desk for 4 days. She couldn't remember them. But her coffee mug was still there. Still cold. Still full. Waiting. Story 2. Daniel's apartment had 6 windows. He counted them the day he moved in because the listing had said 5, and he liked to know when descriptions were inaccurate. Living room had 2, bedroom had 2, bathroom had 1, and the kitchen had 1. 6 total. The apartment was on the 3rd floor of a converted brownstone in a neighborhood that was trying hard to gentrify but kept losing the battle. For 3 months, everything was fine. He worked as an insurance adjuster, kept odd hours, rarely socialized. The apartment suited him. Quiet. Private. The kind of place where you could live your life without anyone noticing. It was a Saturday morning when he counted again. He was cleaning, moving methodically from room to room, and found himself wiping down the window in the bedroom that faced the alley. Then the window in the bedroom that faced the street. Then the 2 in the living room. Then the kitchen window. Then the bathroom window. Then the window in the hallway. Daniel stopped. He was standing in the narrow hallway between the bedroom and the bathroom. There was a window there. Waist height, slightly dusty. He had just cleaned it without thinking. But there had never been a window in the hallway before. He stepped back and looked at it carefully. It was the same style as the others. Same white frame, same old-fashioned latch. Outside, it showed the alley. The same view as the bedroom window, just from a slightly different angle. Daniel went to the bedroom and looked out that window. Alley below, brick wall across. He went back to the hallway. Same view. Almost exactly the same. He checked the lease description again. 5 windows. He checked the floor plan. No window indicated in the hallway. He called his friend Victor, the only person he felt comfortable asking about something this strange. You've lived there 3 months and you're just now noticing a window. Victor said, I'm certain it wasn't there before. Memory's weird, man. You probably just overlooked it. But Daniel knew he hadn't. He was meticulous. He noticed things. That was his job. Finding the small discrepancies in claims, the details that didn't add up. He started taking photos, documenting every window, every angle. He measured the exterior wall from the outside, counting the windows. 7 visible from the street, but 2 belonged to the apartment below his. That left 5 for his unit. But inside, he counted 6. The extra window in the hallway had no corresponding exterior presence. The wall was solid brick where it should have been. Daniel began watching the hallway window. At first, just occasional glances when he passed by. Then longer observations. The view never changed. Same alley, same wall. But something about it felt wrong. The light was off. Too dim, even on bright days. And nothing ever moved. No birds, no trash blowing past, no cats. Just stillness. On week 2 of noticing the window, he saw someone in the alley. A figure, standing with their back to him. Tall, wearing dark clothes. Just standing there, not moving. Daniel watched for 5 minutes. The figure never shifted, never turned. He went to the bedroom window to get a better angle. The alley was empty. He returned to the hallway window. The figure was still there. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He grabbed his phone and took a picture of the view through the hallway window. Then he went to the bedroom and took a picture of the alley from there. When he compared them, they should have been nearly identical. Same alley, same wall, slightly different angle. But the hallway window showed the figure. The bedroom window showed nothing. He tried opening the hallway window. The latch was stuck. He tried harder, using a butter knife to work it loose. Finally, it gave way with a click that sounded too loud in the quiet apartment. The window swung open. No breeze came through. The air from outside felt dead. Daniel leaned out carefully. The alley below was empty. He was looking down at the same space, the same bricks. But the figure he had seen through the glass was gone. He pulled back and closed the window. Immediately, the figure reappeared in the glass. Closer now, only a few feet from the base of the building. Daniel stepped away. His heart was pounding in a way that felt detached from conscious fear. His body knew something was wrong before his mind caught up. He went to his laptop and started searching. Extra window appeared in apartment. Window that wasn't there before. Impossible window. Most results were about dreams or movies. But he found a forum post from 8 years ago. Someone describing almost the same thing. An extra window that showed views that didn't quite match reality. The thread had 17 replies, most of them jokes. But one response, from a user named TK_architect, said, "Threshold spaces sometimes develop seams. If you see something that shouldn't be there, stop looking through it. It's not showing you the past or future. It's showing you a place that's adjacent. And things that live adjacent can start to see you too." The post was the user's only contribution to the forum. Daniel tried to find more information about them. Nothing. That night, Daniel covered the hallway window with a blanket. He used thumbtacks to secure it. Then he went to bed, though he didn't expect to sleep. He woke at 3 a.m. to the sound of the blanket falling. He lay in bed, listening. The apartment was silent. Then, slowly, he got up and walked to the hallway. The blanket was on the floor, thumbtacks scattered. The window was open. Just an inch. Cold air seeped through the gap. The figure was outside the window now. Right outside. Facing it. If the glass hadn't been there, they would have been inches apart. Daniel couldn't see a face. The proportions were wrong. Too tall, too thin. The dark clothes might have been clothes or might have been something else. He slammed the window shut and locked it. He picked up the blanket and covered the window again. This time he used an entire box of thumbtacks. In the morning, the blanket was down again. The window was open. And there were handprints on the glass. On the inside. They were too large. Fingers too long. Daniel stopped sleeping. He couldn't afford to. Every time he closed his eyes, he imagined the window opening wider. Imagined something climbing through. He called the landlord and said he wanted to break the lease. The landlord, a man named Reese, sounded puzzled. "Is there a problem with the unit?" "The window. The one in the hallway." Silence. "There's no window in the hallway, Daniel." "Yes, there is. I'm looking at it right now. I own the building. I renovated that unit myself. There's no hallway window. Check your floor plan." Daniel insisted. Reese finally agreed to come by that evening. When Reese arrived, Daniel led him to the hallway. "There," Daniel said, pointing. Reese looked at the wall. Blank wall. No window. Daniel stared. The window was there. He could see it. The glass, the frame, the view of the alley. "I don't see anything," Reese said carefully. Daniel reached out and touched the glass. Solid. Real. "You're telling me you don't see this?" "I see a wall, Daniel. Are you feeling okay?" After Reese left, looking concerned, Daniel stood in the hallway for a long time. He touched the window. He opened it. He looked through it. The figure was in the alley again, closer to the building. Looking up now, Daniel realized what was happening. The window was only visible to him. It existed in his perception alone. And the more he acknowledged it, the more real it became. He tried ignoring it. He walked past the hallway without looking. He moved through his apartment with his eyes averted. But the awareness was always there. The knowledge of the window. And knowledge was a form of attention. On the fifth night, he heard tapping on glass. He was in the living room. The sound came from the hallway. Soft. Rhythmic. Tap, tap, tap. He didn't look. He turned on the television, volume high. But he could still hear it. Under the noise. Insistent. Tap, tap, tap. It continued until sunrise. The next day, Daniel noticed something new. There was a window in the closet. Small, round, showing a view of somewhere dark. Not the alley. Somewhere else. The day after, a window appeared in the cabinet under the kitchen sink. When he opened the cabinet door, there it was. Tiny, barely 6 inches across. Through it, he could see what looked like a basement. Stone walls. A single bare bulb. The windows were multiplying. Daniel started counting them obsessively. 7, 8, 9. Each showed somewhere different. Most were places he didn't recognize. Rooms he had never seen. Alleys that weren't his alley. One showed a forest. One showed what might have been a parking garage. And in several of them, he saw the figure. Always facing his direction. Always still. He stopped going to work. He called in sick, then stopped calling. His phone rang occasionally, but he didn't answer. All his attention was on the windows. They were everywhere now. Hallway, closet, kitchen, bathroom. Behind the refrigerator. Inside the oven. He started covering them. Blankets, cardboard, tape. But the coverings kept falling. And when they fell, the windows were open. Just a crack. Letting something in. Or letting something see in. Daniel realized he couldn't leave. Not because the apartment wouldn't let him, but because the windows were in his perception now. If he left, they would come with him. He would see them everywhere. In every building, every car, every room. The world would fill up with thresholds, each one showing him places he shouldn't be able to see, and showing those places him. He tested it. He went outside, walked to the corner store, and there, in the store's wall, was a window. No one else reacted to it. The clerk didn't see it, but Daniel did. Through it, he saw a hallway. Long, dimly lit. Empty except for the figure. Waiting. He went back to his apartment. At least here, he knew where the windows were. He had counted them. Tracked them. 43 windows now. More appearing every day. His apartment was becoming porous. Thin. A place where barriers broke down. Daniel sits in the center of his living room floor now. It's the only spot where he can't see any windows if he keeps his eyes forward. But he can feel them. Behind him. To the sides. Waiting. He's stopped eating. Stopped sleeping. Time moves strangely when you're surrounded by views into elsewhere. He thinks days have passed, but he isn't sure. His phone died. He didn't charge it. Sometimes he hears sounds from the windows. Footsteps. Breathing. Whispers in languages he doesn't know. The figure appears in more of them now. Sometimes in 3 or 4 windows at once. Getting closer in each. Daniel knows what's happening. He understood it when he found that forum post. Threshold spaces develop seams. He lives in a seam now. His apartment is becoming a junction point between here and all the adjacent places. And he is the anchor. His awareness is what holds it open. If he stops perceiving the windows, maybe they'll close. But he can't stop. Once you've seen something, really seen it, you can't unsee it. The windows are part of his reality now. He wonders sometimes if other people lived here before and saw them too. If that's why the landlord looked so worried. If that's why the apartment was cheap. Last night, one of the windows opened fully. Not just a crack. Fully open. The one in the hallway. The first one. He heard footsteps. Inside the apartment. He didn't look. He's still not looking. He's sitting here, in the center of the living room, eyes forward, while something moves through his apartment. He can hear it opening and closing windows. All 43 of them. Maybe more by now. And he wonders if you've ever noticed a window that shouldn't be there. In your home. Your office. Somewhere you pass every day. A window you don't remember from before. If you have, don't look through it. And if you already have, start counting your windows. Every day. Count them carefully. Because if the number changes, it means the seams are forming in your space too. And somewhere adjacent to your reality, something is learning to see you back.